Hello, I'm Lori Alvarez, and I welcome you to Real Estate with Soul, the podcast. This is where I will share my story, knowledge, wisdom, and the legacy in real estate, and my family, all boldly wrapped up in one with you. So let's get started. Hey, it's Lori Alvarez, and who's here?
Amy Cruz.
Yes, my beautiful sister and buyer's agent, and we have a guest again this week.
Woo-hoo.
So excited about who our guest is. It is Gabriel Alaniz, LMFT, Marriage Family Therapist. Gabriel, I personally know you because I've had a couple sessions myself with you, and I know you're amazing. But tell everyone who you are, please.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Lori, for having me on the podcast. And just a little introduction of who I am. I am Gabriel Alaniz. I am a licensed marriage family therapist, as well as psychotherapist. Help couples, individuals, people with relationship issues, life transition, stress, anxiety, as well as mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, etc. I have a small private practice in Glendora in the Village. It's doing well. I mean, I have a full caseload, have about a 2-month wait list, and really just passionate about what I do, which I feel is similar to what you do, which is helping people.
Yes, yeah. I personally want to say, so everyone that we have on the show, sister, right?
Yeah.
Everyone that we have on the show is someone that we personally know or we've personally been in business with, and we appreciate. And when I reached out to Gabriel, like before COVID, right? Gabriel was like a year and maybe 6 months ago or something like that. Like when I reached out to you, I wanted to have a coaching session. I called it coaching. I call everything coaching. But you really do so much more than that, right? I wanted to have a coaching session with my husband on how we can strengthen and improve our relationship. And I loved what you said in like our first moment together physically in your room, in your office. You said, like, Lori, you guys already have a great marriage. You just want a better marriage, don't you? Like, I loved that you saw that.
What a show off. Gosh.
And then as he dug deeper, he knew we had more challenges. Come on, get over it.
Well, I'm really glad you brought that up too, Lori, because I think a misconception of counseling, therapy, coaching is that, I'm only going to go do that if I have some serious problems. And actually, a large majority of the clients that I see are quite successful at what they do, have healthy relationships, but they just want to have better ones. And I think that is a fun place to be, and I truly enjoy working with those types of clients.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so here's the interesting thing. Like, we had a Facebook Live that we did for those that are subscribed. That's the language I'm supposed to use for now. I'm subscribed. That have subscribed to the podcast. If you don't follow us yet on social media, I'm at Lori Alvarez. And then on Instagram, I'm at Boldly Lori Alvarez. And then the businesses, Lori's Listings, Real Estate News, and Lori Alvarez and Team. Yeah. Those are all of those, right? You can find those in the links. I don't want to waste our time, our valuable time. But the one thing is, you and I went live on Facebook and had a fantastic conversation just after maybe 30 to 60 days after COVID broke. And so I'm curious, Gabriel, as we went through this last year of COVID and as we feel like maybe we're pushing out of it, how has the mental health industry changed in the last year?
Well, I mean, I could only speak for myself and my colleagues who I've talked to, but a lot of it's gone online, a lot of it's gone on the phone, and it's just gotten so much busier. Actually, I think that everyone I know in private practice is completely booked. I think that people are going through a lot and have been going through a lot, and I'm glad that I'm seeing more vulnerability in dropping their guards and sharing about how life is going. And I think, some of the challenges, though, is some people are going through some really hard things right now. Some of the pulses, there's a lot of depression. There's a lot of people who are struggling with suicidal thoughts. There's a lot of people who are unhappy in their relationships. And these are really, really big
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was reason why, like this month, I was like, you know what? I know we're Real Estate with Soul, the podcast, right? But that's just the point. It's Real Estate with Soul. And I believe the soul comes from the mindset and comes from the heart and how you handle yourself. And I know for us in our industry, I talk with people all the time that are buyers and sellers and other agents that are very fearful, and they have to move through that fear and move forward into action, which I like to call as faith, right? Move forward into that faith of something more, something better. So, Gabriel, that's why we wanted to have you on, because I really wanted to talk with you in this area. How do people do that? How do they go from being fearful to finding their freedom through that fear? Because excites me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think where I come in and some of the work that I do is really partially identifying what is the fear that the person has. I mean, that is a broad term, and it's so different for so many people. What are they really afraid of? And of course, failure is obviously a big one. People don't want to fail. It's huge, and it's hard to get past. I do believe, though, for a large majority on the other side of getting comfortable with failure is a lot of success. And at least the people that I know who I know personally who have a lot of success, they have a lot of stories of failures, whether big or small, and they got comfortable with those. They did. And that's a really tough place to get comfortable with, is the potential to
Yeah.
fail, because it's not always you do something, it works out great every single time.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I know, like I did a training. It was called Coaching Skills Camp through Keller Williams, and it was about 6 years ago. And we had to chop wood, right? And I've done that before, not chop wood with an axe with your hand, right? So for those of you who don't know, I am a blue belt in Hapkido and Taekwondo, right? And that is from many, many years ago. So I don't know that I'm still a blue belt anymore. However, I did do that many, many years ago. And one of the things that we did was break boards. And so at this coaching skills camp, we broke some boards. And the point of that board was like, hey, Lori, this is what you're most afraid of. Let's break through that and move forward in it. And so I did, like, I'll share all authentically, like everything that goes on in my brain and my heart and my mindset that scares the heck out of me, because I know, like, she thinks I'm not afraid of things, and I am.
She's my big sister. She can't be afraid of anything.
There's that family therapist thing right there, Gabriel. So, mine was failure. It was 100% failure. And then when I dug a little deeper, it was just the fact that someone might reject me and not want me. Right. And I don't know if that was deeper or not, but that was, in my world, deeper. And so what would be the process for someone to break through their fears, right? What are the emotions involved in it? How does that really someone process? I mean, I'm so instantaneous. I'm like, give it to me now. How can I get freedom right now? I don't want to go through a process.
Absolutely. I think if we want to fast track that process, I would say get comfortable openly talking about what is it you're afraid of, what are those fears that you have, verbalize it, because it's going to lose its power that it has over you. So a lot of the times the things that we keep inside, we're afraid what people are going to think if we really say them, and finding people that you trust that you could really share. These are the things I'm really afraid of that are holding me back from taking action. Verbalizing it is huge. One of the next steps is going to be, how are you taking action towards it? Even if you're not doing it, how are you taking action towards it? So if someone wants to become a real estate agent, okay, cool. How are you taking action towards that? What are you doing today? What are you doing tomorrow? And then having people that can hold you accountable along the process, I think is huge. So identifying your fears, verbalizing those, and then working through taking action. I mean, I think that's really the fast version of doing it.
I appreciate that. So is it just, like, for me, it was digging deeper and then realizing that it really wasn't the failure that I was worried about, right? Because I failed, whatever. I get over it, move through it. Now I look at failure as like, woohoo! Like that was a success for me because I did. I didn't think that way so long ago, and now I do, right? The rejection aspect still, I can't work through that so quickly. That one's really hard. I don't want anyone to reject me. I want everyone to love me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
How do you move through that? How are you okay with rejection? Like even in a family environment, your family can, the reality is it can be jerks or not like you or not want to be with you anymore. How do you move through the rejection of that, Gabriel?
Well, I think once again, acknowledging that it's something that is an issue for you or does hurt you, or hey, I don't like to be rejected. What I like to look at it is there's no resistance to acknowledging what is, and not resisting what is. There's a lot of freedom in that. So when we can actually say, hey, I'm a little afraid of rejection, or I'm afraid of people not accepting me, there's something about speaking about that becomes empowering. But at the same time, I also think that people link their self-esteem to their accomplishments. And though that makes sense, and I see some validity in that, we're more than what we do and what we accomplish. We're so much more. And I think once you've come at peace with who you are really on the inside, then everything else gets a lot easier. So this podcast on my part, maybe I don't do a good job today in speaking, but I know that this doesn't define me. I still know who I am, as opposed to being defined by everything that I put out there.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I love that. Right. Because I was just reading about that the other day, actually, is how people get caught up in their successes. They like feel really high and they're excited and they're like, yes, I'm doing so good. And that's the only time I feel great about myself is when I've had a success, when we've helped a family move forward. I feel really good about myself. And then if I don't, then I feel really bad about myself. How do we disassociate those feelings so that we stay at peace, as you mentioned?
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely one part is acknowledging when things don't go right or when we don't feel good with ourselves. But the other too is remembering, and these are things that I think all of us have heard nowadays, is just because we have a thought doesn't mean it's true. Lots of the times our thoughts aren't necessarily accurate. So there's these underlying themes that we might have about ourselves, which just aren't true. And then when we get triggered, we go back to that place. Oh, nobody likes me. Nobody likes me. And I'm wondering how accurate that really is. And that's also where some of the psychotherapy or counseling comes into play, which is somebody can say, hey, let's challenge that thought that you have about yourself. Where's the validity in that?
I'm glad you brought that up, because when I see psychotherapy in your job title, right? I was like, career title, whatever. I'm sorry, whatever. What you know what I mean? You know what I mean, Gabriel. Anyways, when I say that, there's the real Lori. When I saw that word scared me. Like that was a scary word to me. Tell me more about what that really is.
So psychotherapy, I mean, is somebody who deals with some what I guess we would term psychological disorders. I don't like to refer to them that way, but these are diagnoses such as major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, adjustment disorder. So I can diagnose off of something called the DSM, and I have that ability to do it. I generally don't like to introduce myself too much as a psychotherapist because it does scare people. So I like to take the least threatening approach, which is I'm a therapist, I'm a coach. I like to help people achieve their goals. At the same time, though, from my personal perspective, I do think that oftentimes labels are very limiting. They're very limiting. And I have no problem giving somebody a diagnosis if they'd like to know what it is. But I don't like labeling people.
I love that. I'm with you on that. Like I hate because I don't eat. People are telling me all the time. Hate is a strong word. I'm sorry I said that. I don't like when people say, "Oh, because I don't eat meat and I eat fish, and I eat cheese, and people are like, "Are you? What are they, sister? Are you a vegan or
Yeah, I don't
a
really
vegetarian?
know.
Is
I
that what
eat
it is?"
meat, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyways, people will ask me that, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm just Lori who doesn't eat meat.
Yeah.
Don't put a label on me,
Yeah.
right? I don't like that. And I love that you said that, because last week, my sister and I had a great conversation on the podcast about mental health awareness. We just, so many people are struggling with it, as we spoke earlier in the podcast, especially right now. I'm seeing an increase in my business as well, with regards to families that I never thought would break up or breaking up and calling us and saying, sell our house, we're getting divorced. And we're seeing that increase. And that's heart-wrenching to me, because I was like, what? No, not you guys. And I just want to, like, I love them so much. I want to put them back together. How can I fix you? Right? That's what I want to do. And I know I'm just the realtor, and that's not my job. So, that, like, I am hearing that. And then when I did the research last week on mental health, I was like, wow, this is way bigger than I even knew.
Way bigger.
It's way bigger. So what brought you to this business? Why did you choose to do it? What attracted you? Because you're so passionate about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things that did. Starting from when I was 16, I was reading like the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I was reading John Maxwell books. So there was always, even in high school, just a desire to grow as a person. And it really became a passion. Just involved in different leadership things through college and high school. I think beyond that, my passion grew beyond leadership to personal development. And I started recognizing that if you have the right mindset, so much can be accomplished. If you're able to face your fears, so much can be accomplished. And part of that happened through living life. In my 20s, I had a few different careers, actually. Straight out of my first master's degree in higher education, I was, director of career services at the University of Laverne. So that was a very fulfilling career, but at the time I felt the pay was very low. So I wanted to go into the business world. And then, having done pharmaceutical sales as well as management in retail and managing managers, I recognize that my passion truly is in developing people. So at that point, I could become a coach, which is a good thing, or I could have a little bit of a license under that, where I feel like a wider umbrella, and that's where just a passion for psychology came into play. Also, having seen a lot of people I know go through challenges with issues such as anxiety. I remember even too in my 20s, I faced some of those same issues, and recognizing that there's tools for that, and that you can overcome this stuff, and you can really thrive in life. So it's kind of a bunch of different factors, but I think really the overarching one is I just have a passion for people reaching their full potential.
Yeah, I love that.
So awesome.
Mm-hmm. So a couple weeks ago when I was doing my research on mental health awareness, I was like, oh, okay, I went to the mental health awareness website, your professional governmental website that there's MHA, I think it is, .org. I went to it, and you can take a test on whether or not you have depression and or certain things, right? So it said I had minimal depression. And I think that just has to do with my menstrual cycle. So sorry, too much information. Anyway, but what I did when I was on that website, like, I saw all this stuff, and I was like, wow, like, there are some deep issues that people are struggling with. And I feel like it all comes from mindset. Like, you've got to move forward, because I know who I am. I was that little girl that her parents got divorced, and she didn't talk all through kindergarten, and now I have a podcast, right? Like, and I did kindergarten again. Like, I think you slowly develop it. And that's to go back to that conversation that we had before, which is, you know, can you fast track it, or does everyone individually work through their challenges over time? And is it okay to just take longer if you need it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're asking a great question, and personally, I do think it's okay to take longer. I think life is a journey; it's a process. I love high achievers, but at the same time, there's something to say about enjoying the journey. And sometimes some of those deeper issues of fears that are at play, or fears of failure at play, they have really deep roots. And through that process of healing, sometimes that does really take a while. It really does. But I also think too, people sometimes are afraid to vocalize their
Mm,
dreams because they don't want to let themselves down if it doesn't actually happen.
yes.
So I think it's also important to know what do you really want, which is
Yeah.
huge. One more small thing too that I hope people maximize, and I think it really sets those apart who go a lot further faster, is educating yourself on whatever it is you want to
Mm,
achieve. Nowadays, with podcasts like yours, with YouTube that's out there, with the internet, there's so much knowledge that we can tap into.
yes.
So even if you're not ready to take the step to actually make an actual step in that career change or life change, start educating yourself about
Yeah.
it. And that's something that we can do, obviously, while we're driving, while we're walking, while we're working out. Maximize that time to educate
Yeah.
yourself
I
about it.
love that. I
Yeah.
think that's great. I just heard this morning, because as you know, I have an 18-year-old who just graduated, who's trying to figure out where he's loved that I'm talking about him on the podcast, that he is just trying to figure out where he's going, right? And I heard this morning and I thought it was fantastic. Like, hey babe, you're 18 and you like should say yes to everything right now until you start growing into who you really have become and see where your strengths and not are, right? And I asked him, I said, what are you saying yes to today? And he was like, I don't know, mom. Like, I don't know, I'll think about that. But you just said it, right, Gabriel? Like, you just have to explore the world and start like searching for that thing that will move whatever you're struggling with forward.
I couldn't agree more. Having done some counseling in my practice with a lot of college age students as well, one of the things I kept hearing over and over again is that they wanted to get their major right. They had to get the exact right major, because they had to know exactly what they were going to do with the rest of their
Yeah.
life. And I was sharing with them that the majority of people don't even work in the area of where their major was, undergraduate major. Um, I agree with you. We learn who we are sometimes by
Mm,
contrast, by doing things and saying, oh, that's something I actually don't
yeah.
like. Or there's something I could take away from that I do like. So gathering life experience is huge. And you only do that by living
Yeah.
it, by saying yes. But that's scary because we want to make the right decision every
Yeah.
time. But some of those life experiences are shaping us to become better people.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. I and okay, so I want to ask you this, right? Because I keep hearing this, and this is, I hope this doesn't like minimize anything. Right? I have this deep fear of sharks and the ocean. I do, right? And I believe it's because my father allowed me to watch Jaws when I was a young girl. And so I'm sure, I don't know, maybe you hear this story a lot or not, Gabriel, I don't know. Anyways, someone proposed recently, a couple people proposed, like, hey, why don't we go and swim with the sharks? And I was like, no, I'm out, not doing that one. And my husband, you know him, right? Because you've sat across the room from him. He's like, babe, maybe this is your opportunity to like move through that fear, swim through that fear. And I'm like, no, I ain't swimming through any of those fears. Do we have to tackle all our fears, Gabriel? Do we have to? So I could go back and tell
We,
Eric I don't have to do this.
we don't, but the challenge for you would be, having known you a
Darn
little
it.
bit, is maybe it would be a good thing for you to face, because from the outside you do seem very
Mm,
fearless and that you're willing to
Totally.
jump into anything. And I think finding something that challenges you personally to say, I don't want to do this, that's where the real growth happens. That's where the real growth happens.
you're,
So
I'm gonna say an unprofessionalism right now. You're a jerk, man.
want to talk about that.
Gosh, sister.
No, I love him. I love him. He's amazing. No, and he knows that I played.
You get what I'm saying?
I
Like
do.
taking it to that
I
place
do.
of uncomfortability and saying, okay, where is the area where I'm not comfortable, and then do it. Just so you know, Lori, I'm not comfortable with public speaking, which is why, even though this, it's one-on-one here, but at the same time, it's a little bit of public speaking, and I'm doing it because I know the areas that I'm afraid of, I want to face. That's where the growth
I
is.
just think it's crazy that you're not comfortable with this too. Even when I asked you, you were like, wow, okay, this is a little like, okay, I'll do this, Lori, which I loved that you said that. And I love that you authentically shared that with me. And even when we did the Facebook Live, like you were like, oh, I don't know about this, because you're so dynamic and you're so like on fire for it. Like you need to do more of it. I'm just saying. And you clearly articulate so much better than I do your point. So I'm going to encourage you as well to move that forward because you do it fantastically.
Thank you. But I think that's where the fun in life gets, is figuring out what is it that you're afraid of and how do you overcome it. Another small one. These are small things in my personal life. I don't like flying, but guess what? My sister is a flight attendant. Her husband is an actual pilot. My son wants to be a pilot, so he's now taking private classes to become a pilot. And he asked me to ride in the back of one of his trainings. And I was scared about this, but it's a small little plane. We have a 13-year-old flying it.
I can tell you, Eric would never get on there.
I'm not sure how comfortable I was with that, but I faced it. And for me, those little victories that no one even knows about, they grow confidence in myself, where I could say, you know what? I'm not going to let that hold me back. I'm going to go after it.
I love that. I love that. Because that's something like Eric has a fear of helicopters. He's like, we ain't getting in a helicopter ever. And I'm like, come on, I want to do like the helicopter thing from Catalina to Eric and I have like once a month. We want to do something new and different that challenges us as a couple to have a new experience. Like once a month, we have like our bucket list and we Googled it. And so one was easy. We put a puzzle together. And now we're trying it again, and it's not so easy. The puzzle's been sitting there for a long time. So,
the first puzzle sat there for a long time, too.
Okay. Anyways, thanks for pointing that out, sister. So,
well, I think that's fun that you identified something that your husband is a little bit afraid to do, and maybe it's the right move for him. Maybe it's not. But I know a personal challenge that me and my wife have is we're always asking each other, when was the last time you failed? Because we know that's where you're pushing your growth. You're going to go a place of growth. And I find that to be fun.
Yeah. I love that. So as we wind this down, right, what is, like, first and foremost, what's that one thing to help someone who may be struggling with mental health issues and or moving forward through their fear? What is that one thing that you want them to really take away that can help them get started in that area? Just a baby step, right? It doesn't have to be big.
Call Gabriel.
Yeah. I mean, definitely you could reach out to a counselor if you're not ready to take that action, though. I would say consider even listening to a mental health podcast. There's a lot of them out there. Just type in mental health and see what pops up. I know there's one called Feeling Good by David Burns. It's actually extremely helpful and practical. That's a podcast they can access right now. Also, at the same time, someone who wants to take on their fears, Failing Forward by John Maxwell is an excellent book. There's also a book by Susan Jeffers, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways. That's a fantastic book that's out there on fears and failure. And then also, if you want to get motivated just to take action, a good person to follow online besides Lori would be Gary Vaynerchuk is a guy about take action. And he's got a really positive message out there, as long as you can handle a little bit of cussing here and there.
I love Gary. Like, I listen to him regularly. Like, I'm like, yeah, who cares what the content looked like? Who cares that my hair is a disaster area? Just do it, Lori, And
I would also say one more thing is, we listen to songs and we memorize the lyrics without even trying. We'll listen to songs we don't even like, and we'll memorize the lyrics. And the point being is, I feel like we have a soundtrack in our head that's always playing. And oftentimes we have some thoughts that are always playing a soundtrack that's there. So if you're having these repetitive thoughts that are really hard to get out of your mind, that are bringing you down, sometimes change the soundtrack. And that could even mean start putting some really good stuff on that you're listening to.
I love that.
A big win, a free win is really podcasts, is YouTube. There's a lot of people out there who have great channels like yourself where you can listen to and you can grow and you could begin to kind of override the soundtrack that was once there, which needs to be replaced with something better.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that, because people will get caught up in their mind and the things that they say to themselves over and over again that you would never say out loud to someone else nor encourage someone else to do. And yet you're saying it to yourself, right? And so I am very diligent at watching who I interact with and what happens to me, right? And what goes inside me. Because someone said to me the other day, like, it's you versus you. You're the only person that's going to stop you from moving forward. And I was like, am I being my best person today? No, I'm not. Change that, Lori. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. Is there a great book that you recommend? I know you said a couple of them, but what's your fave?
You know what? I got a few that I'm working through actually right now, and I'm going to pull it up for you to talk about some of them. Give me one.
Because I'm a reader and I'm going to read them.
There's a book by Daniel Amen that Your Brain is Always Listening. I think it's very helpful. It's informative, and it gives you action steps immediately. Another one I'm going through is called Set Boundaries, Find Peace, by Nedra, and she also has a really good Instagram where she puts quotes on there about setting boundaries. I think a lot of people's challenges in relationships is they don't know how to say no, or they don't even know what their boundaries are. There's another book I'm going through right now. I just started, called How to Do the Work. And I'm finding that book to be really good. And it's going to some deeper issues, even involving our subconscious and ego and how that plays into how we live our life. Because there's a large majority of us where, our mind just wants to get comfortable. So it goes almost into autopilot a lot of the time. And recognizing that and then finding ways to learn how to change it is a real game changer.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. Gabriel, so I want, not that you're like an insurance broker or anything. Can your insurance potentially cover you going to a therapist? Or what is a way for a person to be able to, they've done all the online stuff and now they want to have a real tangible relationship with a therapist, which I highly encourage someone find one and stay with them and have an ongoing relationship with one. I think that it's hugely beneficial to everyone, and we pay a ton for insurance. So is that something that is, can you tell us more about what you do now?
It is. So there's a website called Psychology Today. I think that's a pretty good one. And with that website, you can refine the search. You could put in what your insurance is, and you put the area in, and then it'll list the therapists in the area that take your insurance. One of the current challenges at the moment would be that there's usually wait lists for a few therapists, but that's a way to get in with your insurance. Another option, because we do pay a lot for our insurance, which is a low cost option, but very good option, would be if you're in this area, San Gabriel Valley, Azusa Pacific has a community counseling center. And the community counseling center, it's students who are getting their doctorate who aren't licensed yet, or marriage family therapists who aren't licensed yet. They're getting their hours, but they provide therapy at a really low cost, and you're able to get sessions pretty quickly. So I think that's another excellent option. And if you do have a little funds to spare, there's always a private practice out-of-pocket therapist in every city that you can look up, find one, do your research, just give them a call.
Yeah, I know. Like when we saw you, it was cash on hand. Boom, here, baby. Give me my, what did we have, an hour, 30 minutes, 45 minutes? What was it?
50 minutes.
Okay. And I loved it because when we were in the room, it was lights dimmed and then came back on. So we knew it was okay, we're done. right? And it felt so great. I love the way you just did it. It felt great. So, and I share that with you all in the podcast audience, because if you're scared or nervous about connecting, and let me tell you, my husband did not want to go. He was like, I don't want to be here. And he even went to the bathroom for probably half the session. Like, the first session. Anyways, like, he loved it though, right? He loved his time with you. He loved doing it. And it helped us to discover a better way to communicate with us and to do life in a more passionate way, because that's what I wanted and needed, and my husband was aware of it. So I share that for anyone who's fearful of it. Don't be afraid to give your therapist like everything. They know how to handle it. They're gonna handle it. They're gonna walk you through it, and it's not gonna happen overnight. It's gonna be a process, because you didn't get there overnight. It was a process. So,
Absolutely.
Gabriel, how do people find you, and what's the one thing you want to leave people with?
Find me on my website, www.glendoratherapist.com, or just type my name into Google, Gabriel Alaniz, Alaniz. I'll pop up on there, and it has my phone and contact information. What do I want to leave people with? Man, that is such a big question that has me thinking here. I think in terms of deepening our relationships with other people, really consider how good of a listener you really are.
I love that.
I want to improve the communication and relationship. It's all about the listening. And I think that that's not the one that most people focus on. You want to be a better friend. You want to help someone struggling with mental health. Be a good listener. We all want to give this amazing feedback, interrupt them. Oh, let me help you, give something encouraging. No, be a good listener. It goes such a long ways. So I would leave that with people is how good are you really as a listener? Do you make people feel heard and understood?
Yeah. And I can vouch for you. You do that, Gabriel. You
Right.
do.
Right.
You do. You sure do. Well, I don't know. For me, you do. Thank you so much, as always, for joining. And of course, he's in Glendora. So you gave your website and your phone number, and all of that information is there. And we're going to have those details in the notes and in the blog that we have related to this as well. Sister, you want to add anything before we say goodbye to Gabriel?
No, just that I'm sure we'll reach out to you soon. My husband's kind of like, Eric is not going to want to do it, but I want to do it.
Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.